Have you felt this shift? The older you get, the faster airports seem to move while you're expected to keep up without missing a step. As screens change, lines split, rules update quietly, and flying starts to feel rushed instead of routine. Here's the truth that most travelers over 65 are never told. Airports didn't turn against seniors, they turned automated, and when you don't know where your protections are hidden, the system doesn't slow down for you, it moves on. And that's the twist airlines rarely explain. While pushing everything onto apps and kiosks, they quietly added more protections and options for older travelers than the average passenger ever gets. But the problem is simple. Almost no one tells you how to use them, so consider this your hidden airport handbook, real rules and real advantages you can still use in 2026 to fly calmer, safer, and with far less stress. With one warning before we start, a rule later in this guide sends many people straight to their wallet to double-check documents, and missing it can unravel a smooth trip fast. Let's begin where most airport problems quietly start. Rule 1. The app trap most seniors walk into. In 2026, many trips don't start at the airport, they start on a phone, and at major US hubs the system assumes you'll check in on an app, tap a kiosk, maybe scan your face, then drop your bag without speaking to anyone. And while human counters still exist, there are fewer of them and the lines move painfully slow. But if you're over 65, this matters because you still have the right to a printed boarding pass on most airlines. The airport just won't guide you to it, so if you haven't checked in on an app, do not enter lanes marked express, bag drop, or app check-in only, because those lanes assume you're finished, and once you step in, fixing a problem becomes harder. Look instead for full-service check-in or special assistance, which is how seniors end up dragging bags through endless terminals, standing too long in security lines, or nearly missing flights while waiting for a chair that never arrives. And the worst part is that it isn't treated as an emergency, it's treated as a scheduling issue. So here's the twist. One early phone call can completely change how your airport day unfolds, because if long walks, standing in lines, or rushing between gates is hard on your body, mobility help should be treated like part of the ticket, not a last-minute favor. So when you book or shortly after, call the airline or your travel agent and say this exact sentence: please add continuous mobility assistance from check-in through boarding with no handoffs, because that wording matters. It doesn't just request a wheelchair, it assigns responsibility, meaning someone stays with you from the moment you arrive until you are seated at the gate instead of leaving you halfway through the terminal hoping another staff member appears. Imagine how different the trip feels when your knees, hips, and back aren't paying for every step before you even board, because that energy you save on the ground matters in the air. And this is important to hear clearly. Asking for this help is not special treatment, it exists because airports are built for speed, not comfort, and using it is not weakness, it's strategy. Handle this rule correctly and you remove one of the biggest physical stress points seniors face at airports, but miss it and the terminal quietly becomes your biggest obstacle. Rule 3. Security lines are not neutral for seniors. Most travelers think TSA security is the same for everyone, same rules, same pace, same expectations. But that assumption quietly hurts seniors because security lines are designed for speed, not stability, with long periods of standing, repeated instructions shouted from a distance, and bins moving faster than your body wants to move. And this is where many older travelers lose energy, balance, and time before the trip has even begun. Here's what rarely gets explained. If standing for long periods, bending, or rushing trays through scanners is difficult for you, you are allowed to ask for assistance at security. And this isn't about skipping rules, it's about using them correctly. But the mistake seniors make is waiting until they're already overwhelmed, by which time the line is moving. Officers are focused on flow, and asking for help feels disruptive. Yet when assistance is requested early and clearly, the experience changes. The simple move is this. When you reach the start of the security area, calmly tell the first officer, "I need assistance through screening," because that single sentence signals that you may need more time, seating, or guidance without drawing attention or embarrassment. And at many airports this allows officers to slow the process, guide you step by step, or direct you to a lane that better matches your pace, reducing rushing, confusion, and the risk of mistakes that trigger extra screening. And here's the warning part. Seniors who try to power through security often end up flagged not because they did anything wrong, but because stress causes missteps like forgetting items in pockets, missing instructions, or moving too slowly at the wrong moment, which is how routine screening turns into unnecessary delays. So security isn't the place to prove independence, it's the place to protect your energy and your timing. And handling this rule correctly can save you from hours of exhaustion before you even reach your gate. Rule 4 is where seniors lose their leverage. Most seniors think boarding is just about getting on the plane, but in reality it's where your comfort for the entire flight is decided in a few rushed minutes. Because airlines board by groups now and the pace is aggressive, with overhead bins filling fast, aisles clogging, and people rushing past you to claim space. So if you wait until your group is called and try to move at the same speed as everyone else, you're already at a disadvantage. Here's what many older travelers don't realize: seniors are usually allowed to pre-board even when it's not announced clearly, as airlines don't advertise it loudly and gate agents rarely explain it unless you ask. And if you need extra time to walk the jet bridge, stow a bag, or settle into your seat, you are entitled to board early. This isn't a favor, it's an accommodation built into airline policy, but the mistake is waiting to be invited. So instead, when boarding begins, walk calmly to the gate agent and say, "I need extra time to board," because that's it, no explanation, no justification. Those words unlock pre-boarding without drawing attention. Here's why this matters. Pre-boarding gives you calm aisles, available overhead space, and time to sit without pressure, reducing the risk of lifting bags in a crowded cabin or being forced to gate check luggage you plan to keep with you. And there's a second warning most people miss. Seniors who board late are more likely to be separated from their carry-on, rushed into seats, or pressured by other passengers, and that stress carries into the flight, making everything harder, from standing up and reaching items to even deplaning later. So boarding is not about pride, it's about positioning, and using this rule correctly means you start the flight in control instead of catching up. Rule 5 is that your seat choice can quietly work against you. Most seniors choose seats based on habit, same side of the plane, same row type, same preference they've had for years, but aircraft cabins have changed and some seat choices now create problems older travelers don't expect. Here's the issue. Airlines have reduced seat pitch, added bulkhead barriers, and tightened aisle space, so seats that once felt convenient can now make standing up, reaching bags, or exiting the row far more difficult, especially on full flights. And the common mistake is assuming aisle seats are always best, because on crowded planes aisle seats are where carts hit, passengers bump, and legs get clipped repeatedly, and over a long flight that constant disruption adds fatigue and irritation, while window seats can be worse if mobility is limited, since getting up requires coordination with strangers and delays can turn a simple restroom trip into an exhausting ordeal. Here's the smarter approach. If possible, choose seats near the front of the cabin but not in the bulkhead, because these rows allow earlier deplaning, shorter walks, and easier access to crew assistance without the rigidity and storage limitations bulkhead seats often bring. Also pay attention to exit rows, because while they offer more leg room, they require physical strength and quick response in emergencies, and many airlines restrict seniors from these seats for a reason. So accepting one can create unnecessary stress or even a forced reseating at the gate. Seat selection isn't about comfort alone anymore. It's about reducing strain, avoiding delays, and keeping control over your movement. So choose wrong and the cabin becomes another obstacle, but choose right and the flight feels manageable instead of draining. Rule 6 is that connections are where seniors lose time without realizing it. Many seniors focus on the non-stop flight and overlook the connection, and that's a mistake airports quietly punish, because on paper a 45 or 50-minute connection looks reasonable, but in reality large hub airports are spread out, crowded, and built for speed, with gates changing, trains breaking down, and elevators filling, so what looks efficient on a screen can turn into a slow walk through a maze. And here's the part most booking systems don't explain. Minimum connection times are set for fit travelers moving at full speed, not seniors navigating crowds or using assistants. Minimum connection times are calculated for able-bodied travelers moving fast, not for seniors navigating long corridors, escalators, and packed terminals. So when you book a tight but legal connection, you're betting your body can move faster than it should. And this is how seniors miss flights without technically being late. The smarter move is simple but rarely followed. Avoid connections under 90 minutes at major hubs whenever possible, because that extra buffer absorbs gate changes, mobility delays, and slow boarding without turning your trip into a sprint. And if a tight connection is unavoidable, request assistance in advance, since a wheelchair or escort doesn't mean you're incapable, it means you're protecting your timing, and airports prioritize assisted passengers during transfers, and that priority can be the difference between boarding calmly and watching your plane pull away. Here's the warning most people learn too late: when seniors miss a connection, rebooking often pushes them to the back of the line, onto later flights, or even into overnight delays, so one rushed connection can ripple into a ruined travel day, because connections are not about optimism, they're about realism, so build in time or the airport will take it from you in ways you can't control. Rule 7 is that gate changes hit seniors harder than airlines admit. Gate changes are treated like a minor inconvenience, but for seniors they can be a serious problem, as airlines now change gates late. Gate changes happen late and often, with screens updating silently and announcements getting lost in noise, and when a gate moves from one end of the terminal to the other the system assumes you can pivot instantly and walk fast, but that assumption is wrong, and here's what many older travelers don't realize. Gate changes are one of the top reasons seniors miss flights without realizing they're at risk, not because they weren't paying attention but because the distance, timing, and pace suddenly shift against them. The mistake is trusting the first gate assignment, because that gate is provisional and can move sometimes more than once, so the smarter habit is this. Once you arrive at the airport, check your gate every time you pass a screen, not just once, then check again when boarding time approaches. And if your gate changes and the new one is far, don't wait and hope it works out. Go straight to a gate agent or airport staff member and say, "My gate changed and I need help getting there," because that sentence matters as it triggers assistance options that are not automatically offered. And here's the warning airlines rarely acknowledge. Seniors who arrive late to a changed gate are often marked as no-shows even if they were in the terminal the entire time, because the system doesn't track effort, it tracks arrival. So gate awareness isn't paranoia, it's protection. Stay alert, ask early, and you keep control, but miss a change and the airport quietly moves on without you. Rule 8 is that deplaning is where seniors get rushed and hurt. Most people think the hardest part is over once the plane lands, but for many seniors that's when the pressure starts. Because as soon as the seatbelt sign goes off the cabin surges forward, people stand instantly, bags come down fast, aisles clog, and suddenly you're expected to move at the same speed as passengers half your age. Yet here's what airlines don't say clearly: there is no rule that says you must stand up or exit quickly, but the environment makes you feel like you should. Rule 9 is that baggage claim is where seniors lose control of the pace. Most people think baggage claim is passive: you wait, the bag appears, you leave, but for seniors this is often where fatigue, confusion, and small injuries quietly stack up, because carousels move fast, bags come out heavy and unpredictable, and people crowd the belt stepping forward without warning, so if you're shorter, slower to react, or hesitant to reach in, your bag can circle again and again while the crowd tightens. Here's the part airlines don't explain. You are not required to lift your own bag off the carousel, because assistance doesn't end at the aircraft door, and the mistake seniors make is trying to prove independence when the environment is working against them, since reaching, twisting, and pulling a heavy suitcase from a moving belt is one of the most common causes of shoulder and back strain after flights, so the smarter move is to stand back and ask for help early, as airport staff, porters, or even airline representatives are allowed to assist when requested, and a simple "I need help with my bag" is enough to bring someone to your side. Rule 10 is that one small document detail can get seniors denied. Most seniors assume that if a document is valid it's fine, but that assumption quietly ends trips because airlines and border systems don't evaluate documents the way people do. They don't care that your passport looks okay or that you've flown with it before. They care about exact validity windows, expiration buffers, and name matching. And those rules have tightened. Here's the danger zone. Many international destinations require your passport to be valid for 6 months beyond your return date, not your departure date, and seniors miss this more than any other rule because it feels illogical, since if the passport isn't expired it feels usable, but the system disagrees, and in 2026 airlines enforce this at check-in, not at the border. So if the computer flags your document, you don't board with no argument and no appeal at the counter. The second mistake is name mismatch. A missing middle name, an extra initial, or a shortened first name on the ticket can trigger delays or denials, especially for seniors who changed names years ago and haven't checked recent bookings carefully, which is why this rule sends people to their wallet. You must physically check your documents before you leave home, not the night before and not at the airport, because once you're at the counter it's already too late to fix most issues. Rule 11 is that medications are where seniors get quietly flagged. Most seniors pack medication the same way they always have, with pill organizers, original bottles, everything in one place, and that routine used to work. But in 2026 it can create problems because security and airline staff don't evaluate medications emotionally, they evaluate them procedurally, and large quantities, mixed containers, or unclear labeling can trigger secondary screening even when everything is legal. The mistake is assuming that because a medication is prescribed it won't be questioned, but that's not how the system works, because if officers can't quickly identify what you're carrying, delays follow, and delays compound fast for seniors who already move at a slower pace, so the safer approach is simple. Keep medications clearly separated and labeled, place them in an easily accessible section of your carry-on, and if possible carry a doctor's note or pharmacy printout for any medication that is not in its original bottle, because one unclear container can turn a routine screening into a long, uncomfortable search. Do not bury your medications and do not mix pills in unmarked containers for convenience during travel days. And for liquid medications, keep documentation handy because you are allowed to carry medically necessary liquids beyond standard limits, but only if they can be identified quickly, as waiting to explain after screening begins is where seniors lose time and control. Here's the quiet warning. When seniors are delayed at security due to medication questions, they are more likely to miss boarding calls or arrive stressed and flustered at the gate, and that stress leads to mistakes, missed announcements, wrong lines, and late boarding. So medications aren't a problem when handled clearly, they become a problem when they slow the process, so prepare them correctly and security stays routine instead of turning into an obstacle. Rule 12 is that asking for help does not put you at risk. Many seniors hesitate to ask for help at the airport because they fear being flagged, delayed, or treated differently, but that fear is understandable and misplaced, because airports are built on recorded requests, and assistance, accommodations, and notes in your booking do not mark you as a problem traveler, they mark you as a passenger using the system as intended. The real risk comes from staying silent, because when seniors avoid asking for help they move slower, miss steps, and fall out of sync with a system designed for speed, and that's when mistakes happen, missed boarding calls, wrong lines, unnecessary stress, and preventable delays. So asking early changes everything, whether it's mobility assistance, extra boarding time, security help, or gate support, because clear requests reduce confusion instead of creating it, allowing staff to plan and systems to adjust so your day becomes predictable. And here's the part airlines rarely say directly: seniors who communicate their needs are often treated more favorably because they help the system run smoother consistently than those who struggle quietly, because the system doesn't punish clarity, it punishes uncertainty, and using help is not weakness, it's awareness. Airports aren't slowing down, as automation, apps, and tighter timelines are here to stay, but that doesn't mean seniors are powerless inside the system, because the advantage comes from knowing where the rules bend in your favor and using them early. So when you plan ahead, ask clearly, and protect your time and energy, flying becomes manageable again instead of exhausting. If this helped you, share it with someone you care about who travels. Because these are the rules no one explains but everyone over 65 deserves to know. Travel smarter, stay in control, and never let the system rush you into a mistake.